Good evening, and welcome to the Way Out Show. I'm your host, Dane McCarthy. Today is May 26th, 2017, and I have a very special show for you today. It's pretty much going to be all Alex Jones all the time because there's a lot of important information that Alex Jones has. He's in touch with some very high-level figures in Washington and people who are really important journalists who are looking at the tremendous, almost a conflict or a revolution or a civil war that's going on in the United States right now. And really it's part of a worldwide conflict between who is going to control the world. Is it going to be the globalists or are individual nation states going to control the world? And the struggle is based more than any other country in the United States. As Alex Jones says, United States is the big enchilada. Whoever gets control of the United States, complete control, will have control of the world because the United States is the last remaining superpower. And the globalist-controlled Democratic Party is desperate to keep the information about Seth Rich's murder out of the news. And Alex Jones talks about this. This is going to be coming down the pike in the next couple of days. They have the information. They know who murdered Seth Rich. Now, Seth Rich worked for the DNC, and he released the information that went to WikiLeaks and was disseminated by WikiLeaks, which the Democratic Party is saying the Russians did. But actually it was Seth Rich. Now, Seth Rich paid for that whistleblower job that he did with his life. 2 bullets in his back, face down on a Washington street early in the morning with nothing taken from him. He was found later dead. So I'm going to turn over the show to Alex Jones, and I will basically run the whole show, and I'll get back with you and say goodnight.
Dr. Steve Pachinik of stevepachinik.com joins us, but we are truly living in the twilight zone here.
Well, I'm a little confused as to who did what to whom, but the reality is, Alex, you've earned your keep. You've done a brilliant job of keeping the alternative right on course. And this grew way, way before some of the pundits said. This really grew out of 9/11. And you were essential to this. And that's why I have to go back to that episode and the collusion that occurred, because in a way, Trump has opened up the door once again to the 9/11 crowd. What you're seeing here is 9/11 people on both sides of the aisle. You have Comey; he was involved as a junior individual in the Justice Department. You certainly have Mueller, who was very much involved in 9/11. The classical white Anglo-Saxon Protestant who could do no evil. I do congratulate him on serving in the Vietnam War, but I do not congratulate him as a director of the FBI because he tainted himself, he tainted the FBI, as did Comey and as did Freeze. So the FBI is a marked institution that really has very little value. We have the Secret Service, we have all kinds of other domestic entities. So one of the things that Trump did, unwittingly or wittingly, he was a Trojan horse. He opened up the door to every one of the people who worked with Bush Jr. And the tip of the arrow was Elliot Abrams, John Bolton. Then you get a whole bunch of people who worked for Ted Cruz, Kellyanne Conway, blah, blah, blah. And they all received money. The reality of this show, as I understand it, and as you have come forth without any explanations from the former extreme left, which has switched to the right, i.e. David Horowitz or the boys from Los Angeles, whom I know, you really were the speaker and the spearhead of what 9/11 is about. 9/11 has never been forgotten by your audience, and over 70% of the people now understand that everything that's being said by officials, including the President of the United States, with possible exception of Trump, is becoming a lie. And that's the problem that we're having in the system. New York Times, the Washington Post, they all have been co-opted through 9/11. They're co-opted now. What we're not talking about, and this is pretty much of a deep state diversion, which is what the intelligence system wants you and our people to do, is not to talk about the wars that have been going on in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Africa. I have repeatedly stated that under no condition has Trump the right to send our troops into combat. He has neither the legal right, nor does he have the judicial or the popular right to send men into war for reasons that we don't agree with. And what I'm trying to say again to you, Alex, and to our people, is we're wasting trillions of dollars on generals who were involved in 9/11. Mattis went out there in Iraq and he did whatever he did, which isn't all that impressive to me, but he garnered his own reputation on the basis of that. These boys are not modest, these generals, because they like to self-inflate. Same thing with McMaster. He turned out to be a disappointment, but again, he inflated his own accomplishments. What has not been inflated is the reality that we're going to lose men and women to wars that don't belong to our national security.
That's my next question. What do you make of U.S. forces striking yesterday, 18 miles in a 35-mile exclusion, no-go, no war zone, approaching a Shiite base, supposedly?
Let me tell you what I'm making of this. And I've said it to you before, but I don't expect you to kind of absorb it right away, not because you can't. I've said it repeatedly. If the CIA created another war, which they are doing in Syria, and I've had the good fortune and misfortune to have been interrogated by Bashar Assad's own people and security, and I was kept intact, and for 18 days I traveled around the country to report back to my intelligence individuals that this was not a regime you want to play with. And the reason I said that...
It's sunk in. I'm not dumb. You're saying they're dug in.
But I'm saying something else. What I'm saying is there should be no American soldiers on the ground. And I will tell you why. Hezbollah, which has been already recognized as a quasi-legitimate entity, as was Hamas and as was PLO, they are in the real estate business. They are incredible businessmen in Lebanon. But you do not mess with young men, 8,000 of whom have been in combat day in and day out for 7 years because you're only 10 minutes away from their house in Lebanon. In other words, you've got to look at these Hezbollah fighters as we did patriots. I'm not saying they're great people. I'm saying these are young men who are willing to fight and kill to make sure that we don't get into their territory. And Syria comes close to Lebanon. On top of that, we have never...
No, I mean, as a patriot, you're saying we shouldn't be there backing a bunch of jihadis to take over a country that didn't attack us.
Backing anybody. This is a war created by our CIA, our military...
To overthrow Assad, so we shouldn't be there. But the argument is get rid of Assad. So why are you saying I wouldn't get that?
No, I didn't say you wouldn't get that. I said from day one, we shouldn't have been Saddam Hussein, throw him out. We shouldn't have been taking Noriega.
Oh, you were saying in general people wouldn't get it.
That's correct, and nobody's saying anything about it. I don't hear one word about the fact that we are spending trillions of dollars.
No, I agree, but we got to come back from break. I'm asking you then, why do you think this convoy got blown up 18 miles from some Shiite base?
Because the convoy was just a target of opportunity. And what I'm saying is that the Shiites basically are going to defeat us. I'm going to say it repeatedly. You have the revolutionary...
No, I understand. So we just blew up a convoy going up against the Shiites, or is that intel wrong?
The intel isn't relevant anymore. What I'm trying to say is...
I get it. It's all just a big monkey, you know what. All right, Steve Pieczenik, StevePieczenik.com is our guest for one more segment. Paul Watson put out an article this morning that shows New Yorker Magazine, Atlantic Monthly, all the blue blood East Coast establishment people saying, we don't want impeachment. No, we want the whole election overturned, something new, and all the Republicans that were elected out. People say, oh, that's crazy. They'll never do it. I was told yesterday that Congressman Peter Schiff was going to come out and call for backing off impeachment now because they want the whole thing. They believe they have the media. They believe they have the foreign banks. They believe they have a lot of Republicans that don't want to be removed in this witch hunt because they're already blackmailed for having sex with their interns and worse. So the story's top Republicans coup attempt against Trump being led by GOP insiders. I've had the headline out today. Democrats openly announcing they want to overturn election and have a new one. In their own intelligentsia publications, they're selling that idea. It's not just confidence building to get donations. They're doing it. They mean it. And if we're so passive and so weak, I think they'll push it. Steve Pachinik, what do you think about that? What do you think Trump needs to do to stop this?
Well, I think one of the things he has to do is what I said a long time ago. Number one, he has no reason to have the press in the White House. He can do whatever he wants.
You've been saying that for a year before he even got elected, and now he's saying maybe I should kick him out.
Well, you know, Trump had very good instincts from day one, and he had to rely on a lot of people whom he couldn't trust. Many of them were Republicans who came out of the Heritage Foundation. He never really reached into our group, into the alternative media group. I mean, Breitbart was perhaps one of it, but Steve Bannon came in pretty late. And, you know,
and he's been isolated from the beginning.
Well, yes, but the reality is Trump has to wake up to realize that it was we, you, me, and a bunch of others who from very early on, we were looking for a candidate, and we chose him. Now, if he opens up the door, and I said it's a Trojan horse, and he picks Republicans who are in the Bush Jr. administration, he's self-destructing.
And he's starting to do it.
Well, the one thing I was against, and quite frankly, I was going to say it earlier, but I didn't have the time, and it was nothing to do with you, is I was going to write that Trump should not have gone on a foreign affairs trip. There's no reason for him to go to Italy or Belgium or Israel or Saudi Arabia now. It does nothing for him. If anything, it leaves it behind. The king is left, and you've got 4 or 5 generals sitting at home just waiting to see what would happen. During that period of 9 to 14 days in any other era, there would have been a de facto military coup. Now, I'm not saying there is one. I'm just saying historically that's what happens. At the same time, as much as he thinks he's in control from afar, he's not. He's not even.
No, I got it. He thinks he's changing the subject, but they've already launched this thing before he left.
Way before he left, and it's not coming just from the liberals or the Democrats.
So that's what you're saying. I had that feeling a few days ago. They're heating this up before he leaves to pull something while he's gone.
You hit it, Alex. And one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the show now was to tell him, but it's a little late, not to go overseas. That is a very bad decision. It's a very poor strategic choice. The Saudis don't need $110 billion worth of Lockheed Martin. Right now, what we need is a consolidation of power in the White House. Get rid of all the Republicans who came in through the Ryan factor.
By the way, even Rupert Murdoch has flipped to Trump, I guess feeling sorry for him, and told him that Sunday. Everybody's telling him, fire everybody, don't leave, but he still did it.
Well, I agree with Rupert. I mean, I don't know Rupert Murdoch. I knew Roger Ailes, and I've tracked Rupert Murdoch, and I have respect for his business acumen. But if you want to be in control, you know, trust is good. But as Dzerzhinsky, the father of the KGB or the NKVD, said, control is better. And one thing Trump is not doing, he's not in control. And that's one of the reasons why he feels very anxious. He's got his son-in-law, who really doesn't offer anything and is acting as an intercessor.
Very weak.
Very weak. He's got a daughter who, you know, his lovely daughter, but very weak. You got Reince Priebus, very weak. You've got Spicer, very weak. Kellyanne Conway, very weak.
By the way, he's rejected all their Supreme Court people, all their new federal judges, their new FBI. Who should he appoint those positions, or is that putting the cart before the horse?
Relevant. The Supreme Court and the FBI is secondary to the fact of, let's look at Nixon. Despite the fact that he had been ill and he was out of power and we had a soft coup, I have to commend Henry Kissinger for having created a group of us to maintain the stability at a time when we didn't
I tell you what, let's talk about what happened back then when that coup took place and what you did. Because it's true, people criticize me for saying Trump's good having Kissinger there. Kissinger, behind the scenes, actually wants to make a deal with Russia, doesn't want war with China. As bad as he's been in the past, he's nothing compared to current globalists. At least he knows the players. Let's talk about that and the way out for Trump and America straight ahead. All right, we're back live. No one can deny this country's in a crisis. No one can deny that special interests are arrogant and out of control. And I want to ask Dr. Steve Pachinik, here in closing, if we look at where Trump is, we look at the attacks, we look at where the whole world's going, hell, I'd ask you one question to stay over, and I forget what it was, but there's just so much to cover here. What should people know about this historical time we're alive in?
Number one, Trump has to understand he has to get in control of the White House. Number one, he should fire everybody there. Number two, get rid of the newspaper. Number three, bring in Newt Gingrich, who understands how, I said Hollywood, but it's about the same. He understands the party. He understands what has to be done. He's effective. At the same time, bring in guys like myself and others who've literally, we've chopped down agencies and we leave. We don't stay there. We don't get paid. We don't get honorariums. We're not part of the news. What I get called in for is to take down an institution, reorganize it, and it doesn't exist anymore. And that's what this country needs. If we don't do that, we're lost. I mean,
well, look at the arrogance of these bureaucracies. The question I had to remember now was Kissinger. Kissinger's done a lot of bad stuff, big globalist. But he even knows we don't want war with China or Russia. He's been advising Trump. We'll say, oh, my God, you're for Henry Kissinger now. No, I'm not for Henry Kissinger. But he's more of a realist than the current neocons that just want total war. So, I mean, what's the word on what Kissinger is advising Trump to do?
Well, I don't have a problem with it. I worked for Henry Kissinger. I had my differences, but one thing you got to say about Henry, number one, he was in counterintelligence. Number two, he served our military, unlike the neocons. Number three, he knows the world extremely well. Number four, he was exceedingly popular at a time when we needed a man who could take over for the fact that Nixon was ill. And actually, Kissinger's greatest contribution to our history is that during a time when we didn't have a president of the United States, he stood very tall and strong and made certain that the Chinese and the Russians couldn't take advantage of us. We don't have that opportunity right now. That's why I was glad to see Henry Kissinger counsel Trump, because despite all the other issues, and I was against it, I was against the war in Vietnam, but nevertheless I participated, he still was a brilliant strategic analyst, and he was very effective in implementing something for a brilliant president who was Nixon. And despite what happened to Nixon, you cannot take away the achievements that he accrued, and thanks to Kissinger and his staff. He had one of the most brilliant staff I'd ever seen. Winston Lord in China, Chas Freeman, a whole bunch of guys who were never called back. And when you have somebody, you know, they're still out there, the Foreign Service officers who served us exceedingly well, they're retired, but there's no reason not to go back to them. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Frank Wisner, who was ambassador to Egypt, and we called him in when we needed him. Obama didn't know how to use them. A man like Chas Freeman, who came under the Bush Jr. administration, and the Jews, or Ginza, got rid of him because they didn't feel that he was pro-Israel. That's nonsense. We've had a lot of talented people who are considered.
Sure, bottom line, and then I'm going to end this. We got our next guest here, Dr. Steve Shampa, but everything you're saying is obviously historically important. Why are the elites so against Trump? That endears me to him, but I see the economy buoying under Trump. I see major newspapers mad that we're trying to prop Trump up, saying it's Jones's fault the stock market didn't plunge. And I'm like, yeah, it's cartoon. I would write that to discredit myself. They're openly trying to crash the stock market?
No, what's happening is they're intimidated by you. They're intimidated by what we say. They can't get a control on any of this that's occurring. This did not occur through the mainstream media, i.e. the mainstream media is no longer in existence. It is neither mainstream nor is it media.
It's a ghost.
It's like, well, it's not only a ghost, it's a dead entity, and it's kind of cringing from the grave. It's billions of dollars went underneath. The Post, all the iconic papers have gone.
They're all propped up by drug dealers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in that case, it's slim. That's the case. But it's Bezos in one case. It's another issue, another. But
well, that's a CIA contract. What a scandal. The Washington Post is paid for with a taxpayer contract?
That's correct. But the CIA underwrites a lot of other stuff. We don't want to get into that. I don't want to get caught in the CIA Machiavellian. What I want to say basically is, Alex, you have to continue on. We have what we have, and we basically, Trump has to listen. He's either in control or he's not. There will be no excuses. If he cannot garner control, namely get rid of everybody that he doesn't feel comfortable.
By the way, all the experts are telling him that. They're all saying get rid of everybody.
It doesn't take a psychiatrist to say, look, Trump, you came in on your instincts. You're going to come out on your instincts, or you're going to regret the fact that you didn't trust your instincts. But you shouldn't
Come
be
back with your shields or on it.
That's correct. He's going to lose it one way or the other. There are those of us who are willing to come in for nothing and just do what we have to do for the Republic and leave. Those are the ones who are loyal to him, not the ones who got millions of dollars from the Mercers or the super PACs, all that nonsense.
Yeah, there's those of us that aren't sociopaths that actually care about the idea versus a sociopath. This is incredible. All right, StevePachinik.com. Thank you so much, Doc. Amazing.
You keep going and have the sense of humor that you've always had and keep attacking.
I will, brother. I will do it. I just want to have a prosperous free market country and future for my kids and not a bunch of scum running things.
We are back for the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show with me, your host, Paul Joseph Watson, and we have a very important video coming up at the bottom of the hour, which I put together basically over the course of a month. That's how long it took to put together. It is the truth about popular culture. It's already going viral on YouTube. Going to play it at the bottom of the hour. Absolutely vital that we red pill the next generation. And by the next generation, I don't mean millennials, because they're pretty much a lost cause at this point. I'm talking about Generation Z, who are the most conservative generation, the most reality-based generation since World War II. These are the people we're really waking up. It's no longer a cliche. I get messages every single day, deluge of messages, not just from millennials, but from teenagers, people born after the year 2000. They're a massive source of our fan base, of our listenership right now. They are the most conservative generation since World War II. They are waking up quicker than ever. They are rejecting this toxic, plastic, contrived, vulgar, popular culture in greater and greater numbers and coming over to our side, the reality-based culture. And that is why I say conservatism is the new counterculture. Because one, it really triggers liberals. They really don't like it when you say that because they think they have a monopoly on cool. As Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream from culture. If you influence the culture, if you hijack the culture, if you hijack this celebrity bandwagon that feeds young people their political opinions, because of course most of them don't read newspapers, they don't watch television news, they get their opinions, their outlook from celebrities. If you are able to hijack that, you're able to turn around an entire generation. And Generation Z is really coming to fruition as the most red pill generation since World War II. The most, they call it conservative. It's really just reality-based, common sense-based generation. And it's the youngest generation. These people are going to be around for a while, and they're coming over to our side in greater and greater numbers. So we're going to get into that at the bottom of the hour with the truth about popular culture. Top story up on Infowars.com right now, though. Poll, clear majority of Europeans want total ban on Muslim immigration. And what do you know? The contrived narrative that this was outrageous, that only racists and Islamophobes and deplorables thought like this, has proven to be completely wrong, not only in the United States of America, where we had a Reuters Ipsos poll about a week ago, which said that Americans supported Trump's travel ban, 49 to 41%. Now in Europe, which is a lot further to the left than America, as you know, we have a massive survey, extensive new poll carried out by the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is not Breitbart, okay? It's not the Daily Mail. It's not the Daily Express. It's not Marine Le Pen. It's not Nigel Farage. It's not Infowars.com. That is a globalist institution. If they wanted to manipulate this, they would not have manipulated the results this way, because they don't make very good reading if you're a globalist body that has supported mass immigration for the past several decades. This poll found 55% of Europeans agreed with the statement that they want to stop all further migration from mainly Muslim countries. 55%. Now, don't go thinking that, well, 45% said the opposite. No. 25% responded they don't know, so they didn't have an opinion either way. Just 20% of Europeans support further Muslim immigration. They asked 10,000 people in 10 different European countries, do you agree with the statement, all further migration from mainly Muslim countries should be stopped? The huge, significant, clear majority agreed with that statement. This mainstream media narrative that this is a fringe issue, that it's outrageous, that it's racist to agree with this, completely debunked. This is now the mainstream view. We'll be back on the Alex Jones Show live with more. Infowars.com. Don't go away. We're really seeing the re-emergence of this weathermen-style ideology, this immediate resort to fists, to violence, to fighting, over actually having any kind of argument, any kind of reasoned political debate, because the left, or the far left, at least for the time being, although it's being given cover by the mainstream left, they've lost the argument. They called us racist and Islamophobes for years, and for many years it worked. Let's admit it, it did work, even though it wasn't an argument. People bought it in the public eye because they were so afraid of being lumped into these groups. They were so afraid of being called these slurs, these pejoratives. So it worked for a while. And then it stopped working when people got wise to it, when access to information became so great that they could see it was completely transparent. And that's why we had Brexit. That's why we had Trump. That's why we had the rejection of the left in Italy. That's why we're going to have more massive rejection of the left in these European elections that are coming up in 2017. So their tactic of calling us racist failed. They finally understood that it has now failed and no longer works. Now we're seeing them move on to the next phase, which is this weatherman ideology of violence. This is why we see socialists at universities being trained to beat people up. This is why we see even celebrities now like David Harbour and others get up on stage at these award shows and say, just start punching people in the face because they're Nazis and anyone you disagree with is a Nazi. So that's kind of a dangerous idea, isn't it? First it's neo-Nazis, then it's Milo Yiannopoulos, then it's anyone who works for Breitbart, then it's just conservatives in general. And at the last Trump riot at Berkeley, they had a sign in graffiti saying, liberals get the bullet next. So don't think you're safe. It's like the old Nazi thing, you know, first they came for the communists, I wasn't a communist. First they came for the Jews, I wasn't a Jew. They've made it very explicit, this violent far left element, which is being funded by the establishment, by George Soros, that they see liberals as the enemy too. Yet what do we see across the board? Liberals giving them cover, justifying, legitimizing that very violence that we've seen over the last few weeks, which is only going to get worse if this is not decried. They've run out of arguments, now they're resorting to their fists, and they're seeking aid and comfort from actual terrorists. They're actually now aligning themselves with jihadists because they both share the same method and tactics of using violence, thuggery, and intimidation to get political power, like terrorists do. That's the very definition of terrorism, using violence to advance a political objective, which the far left is now doing with the implicit support of the mainstream left. But again, it's not working in the polls. They're losing the argument, and this new survey from the Royal Institute of International Affairs exemplifies that perfectly. Again, 55%, they asked 10,000 people. This wasn't a little phone survey with, 200 people. 10,000 people in 10 different European countries, if they agreed with the statement, all further migration from mainly Muslim countries should be stopped. 55% said yes, 20% disagreed with the statement, 25% said they don't know. You can break it down country by country. Even in Spain, which shows the weakest support for halting Muslim immigration, 41% endorse a halt compared to 32% who don't. And that is the weakest. And that's obviously because Spain hasn't had mass Muslim immigration, so they haven't had to deal with the consequences of it so far. But even in the weakest countries in terms of support for this statement, those are the numbers. You look at France, which of course over the past 2 years, numerous horrific terror attacks. They've had the Calais migrant camp debacle. They've had basically now you go to Paris, it's like an open air migrant camp. There are people with mattresses on the streets even in the upscale areas of Paris, you look at the numbers there, 61% oppose Muslim immigration. And we're talking about a total ban here. 61% oppose, just 16% support it in France. Look at Germany, where, of course, they've invited in, what is it up to now, 1.3, 1.5 Muslim migrants, 99% Muslim migrants. Cologne, mass molestation, Hamburg, other areas. Well, the numbers show 53% of Germans support a total halt on Muslim immigration compared to 19% who oppose that view. And you can go through it country by country. Poland is even stronger, 71% oppose it compared to just 9% who support it. And then you look at millennials. They, out of everyone asked this same question, do you agree with the statement, all further migration from mainly Muslim countries should be stopped? Amongst millennials, 18 to 29, 44% agree with that statement compared to 27% who don't. So even millennials support this by a clear majority. We're talking about by a 17% majority. Millennials in Europe want a total ban on Muslim immigration. Those are absolutely extraordinary numbers. The big question, of course, will they translate into the elections? We've got the French election coming up here in about 6 weeks' time, the first round of it at least. We've got the Netherlands election shortly after that with Geert Wilders. And, of course, we have an election in Germany later this autumn, later this fall. Will those numbers translate into actual political change? What they tell us for the time being is that we're winning the argument. No matter how many Nazis you punch, which at this point is anyone who disagrees with you, we're winning the argument. You're looking increasingly deranged. You've allied yourselves with the very people who want to destroy the West. And they're openly engaging in an outreach right now. Of course, we had the story before. ISIS puts in its own manifesto that the far left in America and Europe broadly shares the same goal as them, so they're going to try and recruit them. And look at what's happening now, turning to brazen violence because they've run out of arguments. They've lost the argument. And the question is, why do large numbers, a clear majority of Europeans, support a total ban on Muslim immigration? Well, it's because they see that governments import huge numbers of people who are dependent on more government. Of course, it is the left that is the party of big government. It's a political objective to import large numbers of people that will vote for your agenda. That's one of the reasons why they do it. That's why they started doing it in the first place. You know, many of these people do want to escape a terrible life situation in the Middle East. It's not much fun to live there. Question, of course, is then why do they bring that whole culture over and just import it into Europe and just ghettoize and don't assimilate into what is clearly a superior culture, Western civilization? Of course, it's completely failed. Now we have a situation in Sweden which is so out of control that 2 top cops in Sweden have gone public at great risk to themselves, given the sheer level of intolerance to anything that's not far left in that country. 2 top cops in Sweden have now gone public decrying the impact of mass immigration. We have the article up on Infowars.com right now. Second Swedish police officer blows the whistle on migrant crime cover-up. A second Swedish police officer has gone public to blow the whistle on how authorities are covering up a migrant crime wave just days after another top cop was reported as a racist for making similar comments. Yeah. The first police officer, again, a veteran out of Obrero in Sweden, he posted a message on Facebook. It went completely viral. They reported him to the authorities as a racist simply for pointing out that the country is in chaos due to an epidemic of crimes, serious crimes being committed by Muslim migrants. And I know this for a fact because I see the stories every day, because I have friends who live in Sweden who now they say walking down the street hearing explosions in the background is just a routine part of day-to-day life. They just accept it. Not only do they have, we've had the video, we've had the clips, people throwing fireworks at people walking down the street. Now, these migrants literally just turn up at government offices and just throw grenades at the building. That's how bad it is. They cover it up because, of course, they don't want the public to know the full scale of the chaos. But they already know it because they live amongst it. We've had riots. We've had cars being torched almost every night now in Malmo. You know, one of the top police chief had his car torched just the other day. That was a big story. And according to yet another police officer, a veteran there in Sweden, they are using this code 291 procedure to cover up information about crimes committed by migrants, crimes which include terrorism. Okay, you've got this big media narrative against Donald Trump. Oh, the media's not reporting on Muslim terrorism. What a conspiracy theory that is. Well, actually, no. Germany have told, the authorities there have told the police not to report on the identity of suspects if they are migrants, whether they're committing low-level terrorism or serious crimes. Same situation in Sweden, and now another top cop has blown the whistle. This is Thomas Asenlov, who says that the Code 291 procedure is being used to cover up crimes committed by migrants. They're not releasing the photographs of the suspects in crimes to the public, even though it's in the interest of public safety to do so, because, again, they don't want to further this reality, to even establish this reality in the minds of the Swedish public, that mass immigration is causing huge problems. I know people that live there. I see the stories every single day. Of course, the first individual who came out to blow the whistle on this, Peter Springer, now he's been deluged with bouquets of flowers from the public who are supporting the fact that he was brave enough to go public in the first place. Now, his Facebook post, and we'll get into it after the break, again, he blew the whistle on this massive situation that's being covered up by authorities. Now he's getting the backlash. We'll come back more. We are going to get back into the news, but first I want to tell you about the specials at InfoWarsStore.com. We have the new book, The Bombshell Inside a Story of the Trump Presidency, the Making of the President, by the one and only Roger Stone, available now at InfoWarsStore.com for 20% off on this book for a limited time only. This is the officially available for an exclusive 20% off introductory special at InfoWarsStore.com, a behind-the-scenes inside story of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. It's never been published anywhere else. This is the guy who will know. Of course, Trump advisor, confidant at every step along the way, Roger Stone. The Making of the President details the account of Roger Stone and many other Trump insiders who have been longtime friends and advisors to Trump since the 1980s. The candid, bombshell, revelatory inside story of Trump's rise to prominence and how he won the presidency. You will find information like this in no other book because he's got the inside skinny. He had it at every step of the way. And here it is in book format, The Making of the President by Roger Stone, 20% off at InfoWarsStore.com. We've also got Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste back in stock after being sold out for months. Get it while it's still available because it's going to go quick again. It is the best-selling Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Of course, you know the research by now. We've been telling you about it for over a decade. Fluoride lowers your IQ, causes cancer, causes a number of other drastically terrible health complications. I mean, if you're not using fluoride-free toothpaste by now, I've personally been using it for about, 12, 13 years now. So why not get it off us? Because we have the groundbreaking new formula that's loaded with the good halogen iodine. Instead of the bad halogen fluoride, it contains natural oils and ingredients used since biblical times to help wipe out bad bacteria and eliminate bad breath. See, a lot of these fluoride-free toothpaste, they're thin, they don't foam up properly, and they don't work properly. They don't get rid of that morning breath. You don't even feel like you've really cleaned your teeth with some of these fluoride-free toothpaste. Not with Super Blue Fluoride. It gets the job done. It is available at InfoWarsStore.com. Get it quick because last time we had it, it disappeared very quickly. It's not going to stick around for long. Fluoride-free Super Blue toothpaste available now at InfoWarsStore.com, as well as all the other great products. Now, getting back into the news, of course, I mentioned before the break, these two top cops in Sweden have gone public saying every single crime, or almost every single crime that they process that comes across their desk, the suspect is named Mohammed, 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 Mohammed. You can spell it differently. The suspect is still named Mohammed. They're talking about serious crimes, rape, extortion, blackmail, abuse of judicial procedure, violence against the police, drug trafficking, aggravated drug offences, attempted murder. You've seen the horror stories out of Sweden. These cops have gone public simply pointing out the reality. One of them, at least for the moment, has been reported to the authorities as a racist for pointing out these known facts. But finally, it seems, given the reaction, the public reaction to this officer going out, sticking his neck on the line and telling the truth, it seems that they're finally starting to come around. He was deluged with bouquets of flowers. What's interesting is that the police department wouldn't allow the press to come and take photos of these flowers. You see them here, but the police department wouldn't allow the press into the police station to take photos of these because, again, that busts the narrative that there is now a huge groundswell of support, which is coalescing in the Sweden Democrats performing well recently in the polls against mass immigration and what it has done to Sweden. And let's just go through a few more stories to that effect just from today. Muslim migrants shouted, "Damn Germans," as they torched refugee camp. This is out of the Gateway Pundit. Muslim migrants shouted, "Damn Germans," and laughed as they torched a Dusseldorf refugee camp. Now, what was the reason for torching their own refugee camp at which they're looked after with taxpayer money at great expense? Well, they ran out of Nutella, which is a chocolate spread, and gummy bears. Okay? So supposedly fleeing war-torn Syria, supposedly fleeing ISIS, terror, civil war, and yet they get triggered and burn down their own asylum center because they ran out of gummy bears. Now, something tells me that not all of these refugees are actually fleeing war, and that many of them aren't actually refugees, and that they're just economic migrants. Could that be the case, do you think, if they get angry when they run out of gummy bears? Well, I wonder. We'll be back.
That the Democratic Party itself gave thousands of individuals and multiple large companies complete access to the NSA grid. What do you call the intel I got from Dr. Corsi? What do you say about that? There is a civil war going on inside the United States. And InfoWars is set to break news bigger than the Watergate scandal next Tuesday. Or InfoWars reporter doesn't fear for his life. He just said, you know, Alex, this is the most dangerous thing I've ever done. You need to know what you're doing is dangerous, and I can't tell you everything, but you need to understand the Democrats wanted folks to know they killed Seth Rich. And they're going to make their move on Trump very, very soon, and Trump knows it. And we now understand exactly why, because they were on the Russian payroll and the Chinese payroll, even worse. They knew Trump was planning to go after them for it. They knew the intelligence agencies were very upset about how sold out we'd become. And they know that Obama was spying on hundreds of thousands of Americans, specifically, not just thousands, for political control, and had given Democratic Party companies and organizations and groups access to the NSA. Now, you notice that's already come out that Obama was spying on people for political control. Totally illegal. But Trump has the proof as POTUS that they're on the Russian and Chinese payroll and that they were spying on everybody, and that's why they're so scared of Trump and trying to keep him, like their lives depend on it, from getting his people, his appointees, into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th places. The reason they're rebelling so hard is as a rogue government, they were doing whatever they wanted to do. So what do I call that segment earlier where I was breaking all this down? We take these segments and post them on the internet, obviously, for other people to see them. Then we should take a clip right now where I describe it, then we cut to 8 after, start of the hour, and put that out as a video. And how do you crystallize the magnitude of this? Trump has discovered deep state's plans to overthrow America. Trump has discovered deep state's crimes. Trump has discovered why the deep state is so desperate to stop him. And they're so desperate because the crimes are 50 times anything Trump could have ever imagined. Total, lawless, wild-eyed, abandoned evil. With the CIA director saying, you watch your mouth to the president 2 days before he's inaugurated. And all these different Comey acolytes saying, you better be scared of Comey. Comey thinks Trump was scared of him. We're going to get you. And then they put these guys on TV, and they look like the biggest wimp beta males I've ever seen. But there's something about betas in a man's world that have never been slapped down. They're some of the most dangerous people out there. Because a real alpha's been hurt. A real lion's been through a bunch of fights and knows no matter how tough you think you are, on any given Sunday, you can get your ass run over. And that's the point we've reached here with a bunch of crazies who know they've committed incredible crimes, and they know that Trump really is trying to drain the swamp, and if they drain that sucker, they know they're all going to prison. Because a bunch of them are child molesters, a bunch of them are child killers, a bunch of them are sold out to foreign governments, the Muslims, the corrupt Catholic Church at the top, Communist China. I mean, this is a group of sellout trash who were hell-bent to bankrupt the country and get us dumbed down to protect themselves from all the crimes they'd committed. And now Trump knows why they want to take him out. Now Trump knows what's at the bottom of the swamp. Now Trump knows. Last week, Dr. Jerome Corsi began to write reports for Infowars.com about a strategy for the White House to create a war room and a battle strategy to counter the lies and disinformation claiming that President Donald J. Trump is manipulated and controlled by the Russians. Now, obviously, you can put two and two together now when the White House came out today and announced the plans to form a 24/7 war room to counter the Democratic Party's lies in real time. Now, our D.C. bureau chief, with offices and crew that he's hiring, with White House press passes, contacted me this morning as he was going into a very important meeting to say that if he gets killed anytime before next Tuesday, when he has been authorized to release information on this broadcast, that I am to contact a certain U.S. representative in the Capitol. And I'll leave it there. And these are real conversations. I'm in a real spy movie here. So are you. This country is in a civil war and in deep crisis. And it upsets me with the American people, with all you've seen come out and all the criminality of the Democrats, to not understand how much trouble we're in and how serious this is. Now, I am at liberty to give you 2 of the 4 points that Corsi will break here next Tuesday. He's ready Monday, but that's a holiday. We may go ahead and publish his reports Monday, but then have him on Tuesday. And quite frankly, things are moving so quickly, you may see me do a special broadcast tonight, tomorrow, during the weekend, because I'm not at liberty to get into all the stuff happening behind the scenes. But the Democrats wanted other Democrats and others to know that Seth Rich had been executed. The news wanted it to come out that none of his stuff was stolen. You know, the D.C. police was appointed by Obama. They let the anarchists and Antifa and communists and Black Lives Matter beat up tens of thousands of people, including children and women, trying to go into the convention or trying to go into the inauguration. So the sky's the limit with these people, and he's got major confirmed intel on Seth Rich. This is high level, not just out of the White House, not just out of the FBI, not just out of Congress, not just out of the local police. I mean, he's got it. And that's why you see the big official Democratic Party PR machine out there from day one. And Sean Hannity being attacked and losing sponsors, and they're talking about taking him off air right now, even if it kills Fox News, which has gone from #1 in the ratings to #2. They want to kill Fox News. I told you that back in the convention in July. There was a plan to take it out. They meant to already have Hillary in and already be converting everything and already be shutting us down. But it didn't happen, so now there's a civil war. We didn't win when Trump got in. We just bought time and have an emergency beachhead. I mean, this is getting bad, ladies and gentlemen, where they're pulling Sean Hannity off the air just to send a message. People say, oh, well, Sean Hannity's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but he's not out to get the country. Limbaugh's not out to get the country. I'm not out to get the country. Matt Drudge isn't out to get the country. Donald Trump's not out to get the country. We believe in free market, Second Amendment, religious freedom, true liberalism. We're under attack because we're Americans, because we're loyal, because we're good. So, everything Hannity's going through, we're going through. And that's why I ask our affiliates to stay with us and to support us. That's why I ask our listeners more than ever to contact your local affiliates and thank them and to become a sponsor or support their sponsors and send them $100, $1,000. It's all about money. The globalists are coming in, trying to shut these stations down, trying to get their advertisers, or flat out offering them big money to take us off the air. Do you understand that if they succeed in this, the sky's the limit? They're making their move on us right now, and that's on you. And I don't say that like it's just some solidarity term. They're making their move, and if they can shut InfoWars down, if they can shut down all of the independent conservative media and libertarian media, they're then going after your pension funds. They've announced bail-ins to start taking part of your bank account away. I mean, folks, they want authoritarianism for a big, big reason. And it's our own police and military who've been prepared for the next phase that actually blew the whistle and said no to Hillary and helped get the intel to the American people. So let me give you the big news here that I'm allowed to give you. And this has already been confirmed, but Trump has total proof and has been sitting on it because it gives out national security information. But he's the president. He's allowed to declassify. He has total proof that the Democratic Party itself gave thousands of individuals and multiple large companies complete access to the NSA grid to spy on hundreds of thousands of Americans, not thousands, during the election for political control. And that foreign nationals were allowed access and were allowed to penetrate and to even put in hubs, control hubs, into Congress and into the systems, bypassing the firewalls, and then transferring the data out of the country. I mean, you talk about treason. The Office of Personnel Management hack was part of a deliberate operation to basically sell us out to the globalists. That's now coming out. To roll up the good elements of the CIA and China and other areas that were actually fighting communism. You read that in the news, the loyal Chinese patriots that are anti-communist, they're like, it's as if everything we do is known. It's as if that there's Chinese spies inside the highest levels of the CIA. Of course. Your full data has been given to them. You're being tracked in live time. America's been blown wide open. We're sinking. We're in an emergency situation. Why do you think this is happening? The communist Chinese have totally taken over the Democratic Party. This whole Russia thing is a red herring. Russia is only organized to defend itself. It has no offensive capability politically. The claims by Kerry that Russia is taking over, we better learn how to speak Russian, is ridiculous. You see Russians running around? You see the Russians influencing our news? No, it's the communist Chinese, the EU, the communist Pope, the Saudis. And Trump knows that. He's trying to get them out of that alliance with the Chinese right now. This country's in deep trouble. So let me give you the big news. Trump has all the proof that Obama committed massive crimes directly politically, not just against him, not just against other Americans, but against the Congress, against libertarians, against patriots, against libertarian lobbying groups, against gun groups, against churches. The Democrats are so arrogant because massive numbers of them have access to everything now. This is a criminal takeover. like brown shirts licking their lips in 1932, knowing Herr Hitler's about to get into office by hook or by crook. Secondarily, Seth Rich was absolutely murdered for political reasons. And Corsi has talked to multiple high-level sources and has the proof, and they know who did it specifically. It's now coming out that Donna Brazil warned off Private Eye on Seth Rich murder. That came out 3 days ago, but that's just a very small piece of this, but it's important from WorldNet Daily. There's a lot coming out, but I'm going to wait till Corsi's ready to drop it. And again, other media is ready to simultaneously publish it if anything happens to us. And then there are other big pieces of data as well. Comey has absolutely been a sworn Democrat on their payroll the whole time. He was intending to try to build some type of fake case against Trump. That information about Comey and the things he did working for big international banks and the Democrats, that's being prepared to be dropped. That's why he's canceled his testimony for now, while more information is given to Mueller, the former FBI director. So there is a huge battle going on right now on that front. And then there's some other points to those points and another point that I'm not at liberty to get into right now at this time, but I will be breaking down. But just know this. Your prayers now for InfoWars and for all independent free press, not just here but around the world, is more needed than ever. Because authoritarianism knows humanity's awakening, and it's moving against humanity on a planetary scale. The great global battle for the future of our species is being fought right now. Also, please spread the word about our local affiliates, about Infowars.com, about our YouTube videos, our articles. Sharing those articles, sharing those videos is an act of resistance. And despite all their attempts to censor and block us and govern us back, it's failing. We're exploding and growing faster than ever. So God bless you all. Thank you for the support, because if I'm going to risk my life, I'm going to do it to win. What about you? Well, we're winning together. And then, of course, we've got Memorial Day specials, some of which are the biggest we've ever offered. We have a lot of different specials, a lot of different combos over the years. But this particular one, when it comes to colloidal silver, silver bullet, and knockout, is the biggest sales ever. 65% off on colloidal silver out of the gate. An additional 10% off if you sign up for auto ship. So you get it every 15 days, every month, every 3 months, whatever you want. Cancel anytime, one click. Super Male Vitality back in stock, 30% off. Survival Shield back in stock, 40% off. That's the Great X2, now back in stock. Brain Force, 40% off retail. Secret 12, 43% off. All InfoWars shirts at cost. All InfoWars Trump shirts at cost, or 75% off is what that comes down to, $4.95. And that's while supplies last, because a lot of these things will obviously sell out, unfortunately. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. But whatever you do, spread the link, InfoWars.com. That's the Defense of the Republic rallying point. During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are lost leaders. So for myself and the entire InfoWars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers on this Memorial Day. Just understand that without you, there'd be nothing, because you are the InfoWar.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that compilation of clips from the Alex Jones Show. He's really on his game, and he truly is probably the world's most astute presenter and compiler of the news, and he comes up with amazing things. He's able to connect the dots better than anybody else that I've seen. So that's all for this evening, and have a great evening, and sleep well.